News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to Newsline, live from the News First studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning to discuss the state of the economy is Mr. Chandra Jayaratna. Good morning to you.
Morning, Faraz.
And thank you very much for coming on Newsline. It's very opportune that you've decided to accept our invitation and be here. And I wanted to ask you about some key promises this government's made. It's over 2 years now, in effect. They had another government in another election in between, but they've been in power. Democratic good governance, rule of law, eradicating corruption, justice, waste, nepotism, creating the independent public institution and capable public service. On that alone, how have they fared?
Well, I think it's an opportune time if you start from what's happening in the world for us. US President is 100 days in office and he's writing a book. And the Supreme Court of Pakistan is about to pronounce on Nawaz Sharif and the Panama Papers.
Oh, yes.
And the US government has started Tomahawk missiles attack on Syria for failure to human rights. Now, these are some of the things. Similar things are also in our floating around us. So to look at this particular aspect you asked about delivery of good governance, really, if you take case by case, I don't want to go into cases, your media station brings it out very courageously and correctly. Supreme Courts have made pronouncements. Media has brought out every single step of the way of what's happened. But the people who did all this are yet continuing, obviously under protection, and facilitation for some of the others to do similar things, or facilitation for those who did similar things in the past, is continuing. So really this is not governance. To me, this is opportunism, cronyism, nepotism, all the things that they said that they were not going to deliver. So really, if rule of law was to prevail, can we have the state of affairs we are seeing when billions are reported to be under this government's own rules? You have a bond problem on the first time. We write to everybody. Now the Minister of Labour says it's a dangerous place to invest, that it's not safe, the EPF. Now when I wrote to him after the first one and asked him to inquire into this, because he is the trustee, he did nothing about it. Trade unions asked him, he did nothing about it. Now why is this governance dysfunctional? I think it's dysfunctional because the leader of the so-called government is making it dysfunctional for his own purposes.
Well, it certainly appears that way, because we have a situation, and it's completely a huge anomaly. We have the Ministry of Finance split into, in effect, 3 parts. But we have the legislation and the different acts of Parliament that refer to the Minister of Finance making a recommendation. The example was in the choice of the Governor of the Central Bank. But then how can the Minister of Finance make any kind of recommendation when the institution, the Central Bank, doesn't fall under his purview? It falls under one of the ministries held by the Prime Minister. These were things that didn't just happen, Mr. Jayaratna. They happened because it was designed to happen like that. And this has caused a whole heap of confusion.
Well, the confusion is not only there. If you take the inconsistency of this government's actions, the voices they pronounce, the things they do, and first and foremost, an investor looks for political stability, looks for consistency in policies, looks for somebody who facilitates rather than pulls down investment and makes policies that are conducive and makes the place competitive to work in. Now all these four factors are missing today. Policies are inconsistent, political stability does not happen because one party is pulling the other down. Now most important thing in a coalition government should have been that there should have been a structure to resolve disputes so that they clap hands in unison in public. They sing from the same hymn sheet and somebody else within the back door makes it all happen. Arbitrate, knock heads together, get them into a consensus mood. Now without this we cannot have investment.
And I suppose the other thing the investors look for is a stable sort of environment. And how can we have a stable environment when the whole issue of resolving the after effects or the aftermath of the conflict and reconciliation and peace and returning the lands to the former owners or the rightful owners, and where that is not possible for security reasons, the appropriate compensation. All of these seems to have taken a huge back seat.
Well, in the internationalized, we signed a co-sponsored resolution, the results of which we don't have to show on record. We have passed a bill, but the bill is not made, missing persons bill has not been made enacted. We promised 3 other mechanisms, nothing has happened. Least of all, at least reparations could be paid. There were foreign foreign governments willing to support. Why can't even economic reparations be done for those affected people? Let's take the housing issue. Housing issue, they are now making 6,000 houses of the steel variety.
65,000 was promised.
65,000 was promised. Civil society said they can do 100,000 houses locally with that money, borrowing it locally.
But they say that there are not enough of masons, not enough of sand, not enough of stone, and so on. Is that true?
Well, we seem to be getting all the stone in the quarry that we require for the Colombo port city. We seem to be getting all the masons and others from other countries. If that is necessary, we have to then.
And all the apartment blocks are being
built around. There is, I think, it is a question of probably corruption, probably egos. Probably other interests prevailing. Interest of the people, that's the most important thing. Has this government steps to ensure that their governance framework is for placing the interest of Sri Lanka first? Placing that we will have asymmetric development that is be taken out, so that we'll have a systemic level of development, inclusive development. These are things that were promised in the run-up to the elections.
It's not something that the people have made up since.
If you take the 100-day promise of this government, it had things like the Audit Act, still not seen the light of the day. Right? They promised to have a code of ethics for MPs and ministers. That has not come by. They promised to have the electoral system revised so that this present electoral system, which does not elect people who are worthy and capable of governance, elected to office. None of those things have come by.
And what about this looming debt crisis that we seem to be having, or people are talking about?
Well, the looming debt crisis is a reality, and we need as a nation to find a solution. Now, trying in that, I think what is being tried is like they're trying to blindfold all the people and do what they want to in the guise of resolving this, do a few other things that seem to attract their attention or for their benefit, like the Hambantota port. Why is all this secrecy surrounding it? Why is no government who said transparency. Right to information has come.
Yeah.
But right to information is denied. Those who ask for information are being denounced.
Yeah.
So these are not of a functional government.
It's almost like a return to the previous regime when lawyers appearing for a rather noisy Sunday newspaper were described as traitors for defending that newspaper.
I'm sure it's a lot worse in some instances because people came with the promises made of good governance.
So the level of letdown is greater, isn't it?
Certainly greater. And I think this probably is the last chance that this government has to reform. By the end of the third year, by the time they reach end of this year, they are going to find themselves in a point of no return. So the leadership must have the vision to see what is happening. The leader says he wants to stay in power at a cricket match.
Yeah.
You stay in power by delivering what you promise, delivering what is good, what is sustainable, where people can benefit, the country can benefit, and the promise of 1 million jobs can be realized. But I cannot see all that happening in the current circumstances with some other individuals. Now even the individuals who have not performed are trying to be changed. There is a lot of the change which is necessary. People who have been put into power to manage some of the key institutions are totally incapable of doing so.
They're completely out of their depth, aren't they?
We were also promised in the 100-day program that there will be a way of a nominations committee which will select. Now even the Constitutional Council, now they say, is being fed with the wrong people. So no wonder the second nominations board has not come. In the private sector, methodology was to be adapted to suit the government selecting the right people. Now some of these institutions, key institutions in this country, heading petroleum or insurance or things like that, which have the Air Lanka, we are seeing a crisis in management in many of them. These are because of the lack of capable men and women, good men and women who have integrity, who have capability, and above all who have a commitment to the country, not to themselves, not to their leader, and not to a party. That's what's missing.
And that is a terrible letdown, the expectation of the people. And also, Mr. Jairatnam, I can't help but notice that there appears to be growing talk and concern about this proposed income tax, the new rules or the amendments or whatever you want to call it. That some of those aspects are rather draconian. I mean, that bit about the assessment and not not being able to challenge it.
Well, this government's manifesto talked about white papers, green papers. We haven't seen white papers or green papers or any other papers till they are signed. Second thing is, I think this functionality is seen, this is not the first time. Look at the budget proposals, look at the key proposals which are announced, see the implementation. If a government for 2 years running are unable to get the acts and bills in place in time, that's total dysfunctionality. I think they are dependent too much on some of the foreign advisors. They believe in foreign advisors. We haven't seen the tax commission report as yet. Why is it that 2 years running this government is unable?
They're having foreign consultants and foreign advisors and foreign everything, because that means that you have to remit hard-pressed US dollars out of our country to pay for those things. And along that process, do you think there's a possibility that there are various sums also being spirited away for private use?
It is most likely, if what we know about what has happened in the past, I'm sure it's all been repeated now. But to me, the more important thing is, whilst there is, let's take the Income Tax Act. We have had an history of tax commissions reviewing it, locally competent people reviewing and telling what it is to be done. When we have them, we have produced tax bills before. Why can't we do this now? I recollect that after the budget was passed, I think the legal draftsman's department was told to concentrate fully on getting the tax bills in time. But in between comes a foreign person is brought. I think the foreign persons are being brought so that the ego of some of them are massaged. Some of the ideas can be put to them, and they can rest without doing the things. They can be without having capable people around them, use their cronies around them, and be happy. Somebody produces, they stamp it and put it out without any. I'd like to ask whether how many of these who are in governance have run anything in their lifetime other than being in parliament? Have they run a business? Have they run an institution?
So they don't really have an ear to the ground.
Certainly they don't have an ear to the ground, and they also lack total capability. So they select people who are very close to them, who think like them, who will do the things they want, and who will massage their ego.
Who can probably solve the world's problems over a round of drinks at one of the gentlemen's clubs.
Well,
is it that kind of thing?
If that type of people are at least meeting in a club and solving the world's problems and our problems of the future, then it's all right. Unfortunately, those who are in and around the people who are in governance are incapable of even doing these particular good ideas.
I want to say this, as far as the ports are concerned, the Colombo port, they actually only sold the terminals. They didn't sell the port, didn't sell all the stuff. So why should Hambantota be any different?
Well, if we are in a debt crisis and we can't raise the funds, if this is the only way, there should be a transparent debate to explain to the people that this is the only option that is available. I don't say that this is the only option, and I certainly don't agree with the way it has been valued. You don't value an asset on the basis of debt upon the asset. You have to take the future earnings. This is not the first time. They tried to do the same thing with the debt equity swap for the Norachole coal plant, and it was stopped. Now there are methodologies for valuing.
But I worked it out. This is $1.2 billion over 99 years. That works out about 5 million rupees per day. I think, I put it to you, that 5 million rupees is well within the means of the bigger shipping companies in this country. We have at least 3 major players. Surely, to give an already struggling local economy a fillip and an encouragement, surely they could have called these people in and said, what are your proposals? Why don't you tell us what you can do? And that would be a local solution, and I'm sure these big companies can raise funds overseas if they have to.
Well, I think 3 things which are missing in whatever they do. Firstly, there is no transparency. Secondly, they don't do the proper background homework that needs to be done with integrity. And thirdly, they do not discuss openly, debate, look at options. What you said is one option. There are other options that can be done. If you want to raise assets, there are other options that can be done where you could raise some money through the stock market. The best example is the housing. When $1 billion was to be borrowed from a foreign company, the local investment bankers came up with a proposal that they can raise it at a much cheaper rate without an exchange risk in the local market to make the housing.
That's right, and even that the loan from the Mitsubishi Tokyo Bank for $1 billion, there was a insurance payment up front of 10.07% in a post-war situation. I've never heard of anything remotely close to it in my life. I don't know why a post-war situation would command such a huge insurance premium, and that too up front, $107 million, irrespective of however much the road was going to cost them. it all smells. It's a bad odor that's coming along. I have some questions about somebody sending this thing to me about the computers being supposed to be supplied.
The NIC.
Yes.
National
Yeah.
Identification.
That's right. Now, you know, the people are asking about that.
Well, the coal tender, we know what the Supreme Court said. We know about some of the other tenders that are not being managed properly. This is not what was promised. That is
what's this RAMIS system? RAMIS.
I'm not sure.
This is some new system in which they have spent 9 billion rupees on. But if they bring the new act, the new income tax act, if they bring that in, this whole thing will be of no use, because they'll have to just abandon it. Abandon 9 billion.
One more dysfunctionality you're showing. This government is riddled with dysfunctionality.
Yeah.
I think civil society, my answer to this is civil society must get up. Civil society must together, not organized civil society, people in society must get up and in loud voice tell this government, you have to reform, you have to deliver, you have to show us that you are capable of solving this country's problems. The key things you said about constitutional reform, accountability mechanisms, solving the long-term conflict and ensuring harmony, making the economy sustainable and inclusive for everybody's benefit, and most importantly, running the governance with transparency and without corruption. If they don't deliver these by the third year, that the people's voice, people's actions will demand and force them out of power. I think the present Prime Minister doesn't seem to have run a full term in his
there's a grave danger that he might be kicked out.
He might. All the efforts of others, including the efforts of a united country bringing a president in a regime change, might be lost due to three things: arrogance, blindness to reality, and cronyism and nepotism, and not having good men and women of capability, integrity and commitment to this country.
I want to applaud, but you know, because you're on a program, can't do that. But I want to say this to you: why can't this government have pride in owning the airports and the ports? They shouldn't be selling off those things. Nobody should be able to sell. Those are key requirements that a nation needs. You can sell a terminal, you can sell a hangar, you can sell whatever it is within that time. You rent it out, you do whatever, but you don't go and sell the whole blessed port. And this is all because of their dysfunctionality. They haven't been able to solve the requirements of money, and so now they're rushing around like so-and-so flies. You know, they're squirming around almost like a reptile that has had kerosene oil poured over it. They're running around here, there, helter-skelter.
Well, when you have assets, you should leverage them. First option is to leverage those for the benefit of the people. There are a number of ways in which these assets, again, money could be raised. As you say, some institutions have they consulted the investment banks here whether they can raise some GDRs or something like that, bring some money, and a pooled investment can come in. So you're talking about public-private partnership. Public-private partnerships are possible in many ways if you have got the right type of people with the right intent. Now here the intent seems to be to do a deal, probably without transparency, but some benefits to some, without taking the whole of it. Now this is where I think we should have an infrastructure handling policy. Now, infrastructure is not only what we have today. You're talking about assets. What about our oil resources that might be there? What about the continental shelf or entitlements of the sea resources? Are we capitalizing on those? What about, I mean, this country requires good economic management, run with wisdom, but committed to this country. Unfortunately, that is both factors of wisdom, capability and commitment must be built up. I think this is the last chance for this government. Unless they produce results by the third year, that is next year, I'm sure the society will stand up and do what they did with the others.
Kicked them out.
Well, I think that threat must at least bring them to realism that there is something that needs to be done, done soon, done in the interest of the people and this nation.
But, you know, if you took our organization, and we've been around for a while, and we've rebuilt since '83 and so on, and back again onto the top of the game again. Now then, if we had a bad finance director, Mr. Jayaratne, I assure you that he or she would be sacked and perhaps reoffered employment as a PM.
Well, I don't know about reoffering. People who have not performed, they're talking about setting up KPIs or key performance indicators for everybody in public service. Now they have got a consultant to do that.
Right.
First of all, they have set their KPIs. That promises they made, what you said at the beginning of the show, is the KPIs that this government has to perform. They should measure themselves. Somebody should debate where they are. They should make course corrections. And those who can't must be sent home.
But they don't seem to be able to make course corrections at all, because they constantly try to sustain their position by blaming it on the other side, saying that it happened before. My point is this: if it happened before and you're in power now and you've got the entire machinery behind you, the police, the investigators, the whole lot, then why on earth can't you sort that out? Investigate and bring them to book. Don't be using that. You know, the people of this country, they're through with excuses. And, you know, with the advent and the increasing use of phones and so on to access information, the people of this country are pretty well informed. They don't want all these nonsensical, theories and so on. We had ministers coming here on this show and who told us that on various issues, these losses that the media is talking about, they're not quantifiable. What does he mean? We've got the Auditor General of the country telling us how much has been lost. Then their response to that is to attack the Auditor General. This is one hell of a democracy.
I would add to the list you said, also I think the professionals of this country have failed, because the professionals are also not doing their job properly. They are not living up to the ethical standards. We seem to be having a problem going right through. There is a culture shift that is necessary, and that was what was promised. The good governance was the changing point on which a whole new culture was being built. Culture is not being built. We are recreating the same thing. We are trying to make the same mistakes which others made, knowing that they are mistakes.
Well, I'm looking at all these questions. I have got so many questions today. They're all to do with good governance, and many of the questions we're getting today is about the Ministry of Finance, and the people are clearly unhappy with the minister's performance there, and they're going on about the inland revenue and so on. There's another one that says we can't allow the country to be raped before they are sacked. That means this person at least wants action today. We must acknowledge the stand that you have taken, and thank you for that, because it's not often that we have people who are willing to come out very publicly and take such a stance. It's important for people, professionals, to come out and take a stance. We're off the air before this. We were discussing the case of a PLC company. They've had a re-audit, and it's absolutely disgraceful what has gone on. And these poor workers in that company, their dues haven't been remitted back to the government as per the law. This is one big liberal democracy we are living in, and liberal whatever, and all his mates are obviously in power, and so they are getting political patronage.
Well, all the revelations that are coming is showing that the auditors have failed, the engineers have failed, the valuers have failed.
Exactly.
And the lawyers have failed.
Yeah.
So I think the professionals must also now reform themselves. They also have only few days, I think, as much as this government, to reform and change. Let us keep the pressure. I must ask the media, thank your media for keeping the pressure on. Let us, from today till next year, give them to produce what they have promised.
Exactly.
Deliver. If you cannot deliver, be prepared to be delivered upon by society.
And be delivered to spend your next birthday in your private residence at 5th Lane, because that's what will happen if the people...
Not only 5th Lane, anybody and everybody who's doing non-delivering must go home.
They must go home. We said that about some other person. In the meantime, Chandra, thank you very much for being on Newsline. We really appreciate and we admire your stance. Thank you very much.
Pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Yes.
And,
cheers to you and to your station for all the good media work you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And on that note, that's the day's proceedings from Newsline. We trust you enjoyed it. We trust you will act upon it. We trust you will send off those SMSs, emails, and if you need the telephone numbers, do call us, 0772 300 305. We'll give you all the details needed to lobby your local MP and the ministers. Meantime, take care, have a great day, and God bless.